everyone. Welcome back to the BiG Scuba podcast. My name is Ian, and I am one of your co-hosts for this show. And with me is...
Hello, my name is Gemma, and I've got a nice voice, a little husky voice.
I've got a husky voice, so yes.
Yeah, you're still with us. That's the main thing.
Well, you know, man flu and all that. I suffer in silence, Gemma. Suffer in silence. So coming up, let me just tell you that these episodes are sponsored by the lovely people at Not That 90. They are
beyond technical.
Yes. We did that together.
Yeah.
So coming up, we're going to talk to you about the Go Dive show, because that was on over the weekend, or just gone. So it was really good, and we'll have a little chat about that. And also we've got a guest for you. We do like to have our guests, and this week is no exception to the rule. And we're coming up later in this episode is
his name is Osama, and he is a Austrian, based out in Mexico.
Well, we can't hold that against him.
No, I'm just saying where he's come from. And he's based in Mexico, and he's a very passionate cave diver.
He is very good, and it's great to listen to. And you know, we had a really good chat with him, didn't we?
Yeah, he's very much into his exploration. He was recommended as a guest to us by Aniela Martin, who we spoke to. She works offshore as a surveyor, underwater surveyor, and she recommended that we talk to her friend Osama, and he proved to be a very interesting guest.
Yeah, she was absolutely right, and we ought to say thank you very much for suggesting Osama to come along. And if you've got a guest, do let us know. You know, don't hold back. Do tell us, and or if you're listening and you think, hey, I've got a story to tell. Then you got a book coming out, or you're in a film. Who knows these days? Yeah. But anyway, you're a diver, and maybe you just got something interesting that you want people to know about. Then, hey, this is the place to do it.
Make contact. Yeah, anything to do with a connection to the watery world.
Absolutely, and we'll get you on and have a chat. We'll probably get your name wrong. Well, I will. Gemma won't. I probably will. But if you can bear that, then do make contacts. You know, raise your hand, let us know, and we'll get you to the front of the class and have a chat.
Yeah, and if you've listened to any of our previous podcasts, you can see that it's an informal, friendly chat. We don't have any sort of set structure to it. It is just talking and hearing about experiences and stories and inspiring others about their underwater journey.
Yeah, me and Gemma usually clam up and go quiet, and we just let the people chat and talk, and you know, they just fill the space with their life.
Yeah, we have a few set questions at the end of our podcast.
Really, this whole podcasting business.
Oh, it's a dawdle.
Yeah. Anyone can do it.
Yeah, forget all the editing and the social media side of things. And...
We're on about we edit, do we?
No, we just record this and ship it out, don't we?
Easy, steady now.
It's all these people that think podcasting is easy.
I know.
It's hard work, but it's enjoyable.
Exactly that. So should we crack on before my my voice disappears and I go the full Barry White on us?
Don't sing a song.
You don't want me singing.
I think you've been doing too much singing in the daytime.
I think might get to a whistle. Might be able to do a whistle. I think tomorrow morning at CrossFit that'll be very quiet. I'll be whistling to everybody.
Anyway, let's talk about the Go.
Move on, you know.
Get talking about the Go Diving Show. The Go Diving Show is the only diving show in the UK, and it usually happens kind of beginning of March, late February.
Yes, and there used to be two. There used to be one in Birmingham, and then that's no more. And so we now got this one dive show. And I went to, I was lucky enough to go to one right at the start, really enjoyed it, and it's always been a good atmosphere. And this year was no exception again. Um, always good time to catch up with people. You know, it's one thing we missed in COVID, wasn't it? Was the
Yeah.
whole getting together, having a chat, talking. Can I say it? Diving bollocks. You know, we get together, don't we? And we talk the diving chatter.
Talk the diving talk.
You know, and we do, and we do it down on the dive site. You know, over a cup of tea and a coffee or whatever your poison is, and we have a little chat, don't we? And people come along, and so at the go dive show is a good opportunity to network. And I dragged Honey along because so it's your mum's birthday.
Yeah, so I had other priorities, so I took my parents away for a few days, and
You
that
must tell your
coincided.
mum, actually. You know, it's really bad form
I
to
know it's bad
have her
timing.
birthday on the same weekend as the go dive show.
I know
It's
it was 75th birthday as well, and
that's no excuse.
I know. So, but yeah, I was very disappointed to miss it. But you did keep me informed of what you're up to, and it was good that you could take Honey with you, so that she
Yeah,
could
so that's
experience
her
it.
first year,
Mm.
and I think she was a little bit what's the word?
Overwhelmed?
Overwhelmed. Yeah, I think she
Mm.
was at the start. I think it probably didn't help that I got her up really early as well. Honey and getting up early never goes down particularly well, especially on a Saturday. You know, after a whole week at school, and then I'm like, yeah, you got to get in the car about just after 5 o'clock. So imagine how well that went down.
Yeah, it was a bit of a an early start, and then being thrown into an environment, yeah, you'd
So
never
I think that took
experienced.
her a little while to get her head around the fact of, and it's the first time um, of going to a trade show because
Mm.
end of the day it is a trade show. So let's give her that. Um, so that was really good. But one of the things she said to me was, she says, "Oh, you do talk. Why you talk? You do talk to everybody." I said, "Well, yeah, I know. It's the whole point. We come here, we chatter, and you know, we talk diving and
Mm.
things like that. You know, because you haven't seen anyone, seen these people probably since the last show or all the time before that. So it's a good time to catch up." Bear with radio
Yep.
silence. Um, so yeah, and that is the beauty of them. So we of doing these shows, and I think the actual Stoneleigh Park is a great place for that. It's a good size site, isn't it?
So there
Good
were two
facilities.
halls, weren't there, that you could
Yeah,
walk
last year
around?
was three. There's a UK
Mm.
one, so but it was
Okay.
in two halls. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's still the pool there where you could book a rebreather, try dive. Although there seemed to be some question mark about that. I don't know. Um, best look on Facebook about that. And then
Speakers.
the team through, they were there for dive raid, doing side mount try dives as well, like
Mhm.
what we did last year. And you know, it's a good thing to do if you do go, um, do book up as well because it's a good place to go along and try different skills to what they what they've got available there as well.
Yeah.
So do that. It's a nice thing to do. And there's during the day or over the 2 days, there's a tech um, stand, tech stage
Stage.
of various people doing speaking about their tech diving during the year. There's also the inspiration stage where you get people talking about photography and skills, and maybe they've done something special. And also you've got the main stage. So you've got people like Steve Backshaw coming to talk about whales, sharks, all that sort of stuff. So, and that was really good. And we did hang around for some of them. I was only there on the Saturday. Um, so yeah, so I was only there on the Saturday.
Yeah, it is a 2-day event, isn't it? So some people go for one day, either the Saturday or the Sunday, and then other people go for the whole weekend, which we did last year, didn't we?
Yeah, and as it was Honey's first year, I think that
one
probably
day
would have
was
been a bit much for her, to be honest. Especially with school on the Monday, so we just went on Saturday, and that went well. That was nice.
So did you just walk around and?
Yeah, we walked around, and so the usual thing is it opens at 9:30. They've got the waving diver outside. It's always good to see. Security was tight. I don't remember that first time last year, previous years. Metal detectors, like airport metal detectors on coming in, going through your bags, stuff like that. Some guy was asking me lots of questions about full face diving. So I was helping him as I was trying to sort out security for me and Honey.
There's always characters at the Go Diving show.
But hey, I'm happy to help at any time, Great. But anyway, so so that was the start. It's good to see the security because it's good to know, these things have been checked and everyone's safe because you never know these days. And then what I've done is I've kind of made a list, so I'm going to go through the list. I think it's probably
Okay.
of giving people shout outs as I kind of met them and different brands who I saw as I came across them. Is that all right?
Yep, fire away.
So one of the first brands I came across who was there was AP Diving and JJCCR. Saw them. And also there was a really big contingency from Royal Navy. So they were there, and that's really good to see them. Some are in uniform, some not. And I think they were doing some bits and pieces on their stand. So shout outs to them. And they were doing some career stuff as well.
That's good.
So if you're thinking about doing, that as a career next year, bear that in mind because hopefully they'll be there next year. So always good seeing the guys and girls from the services making Hammond Dry Suits, they were there and they gave us a shout out. And also, can I just say, Typhoon and Dark Diving did everything that we said that we had to do for our free water bottle. So I look forward to my free water bottle, guys. And you did also confirm on social media as well that you've seen it. So we had to share a photo of their stand.
So you're waiting for your water bottle?
Waiting for my water bottle. Who knows? You might get two. She might get one as well. Well, I don't do this on my own.
It's joint effort.
It's a joint effort, So hello to you guys. We should also say hello to Dean Martin on the Dynamic Nord. Now, massive, probably one of the biggest stands there, actually. Big, white, glossy, lots of products to look at. If you're looking at, they've been in Germany and Europe for quite a while, and they're new guys on the block in the UK. So you're probably now starting to see them in the local dive shops. And it was really good to see their new stand that they got a massive, great big white stand. So it was really good to see all the products and stuff that they had for sale. So yeah, look out for them. Dynamic Nord. And also when we arrived, quite one of the first speakers was one of our previous guests, Dawn Kanagas. From Deep. She was having given a talk on the Deep campus, Deep manufacturing, talking about Vanguard Sentinel, which is the one which they're going to be dropping as a test bed in the, I don't want to call it that, but for the most divers who are listening will only know it as the old NDAC site at Chepstow, but that's where it's going to go. But it's the deep campus. All right. and that's where that's going to be in, and that should be going in. I think they're talking about the end of the summer, which would be really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It
Exciting.
is. Yeah, my voice is not allowing me to portray that, but it was a really good talk, and thanks for Dawn for sharing that with us. So that was really good. Lots of good photos, lots of pictures of and a video of the actual dive site with how it is now, which is completely different, whole different setup they've got there now. Now I'm pretty sure it looks completely different to when we were there over a year ago.
Yeah, so we visited a year ago, and they had some temporary units there, didn't they? We went to their facility in Avonmouth, was it called? I can't remember now. And then we went over to the waterside as well and saw the Trident subs, didn't we? And
yeah, which was awesome. So, so that was good. Then virtually walked into Dive Raid and bumped into the boy Gary Dallas. Hello to Gary. And the Frews from Dive South, Team Frews, who helped us last year, and also Richard Cullen, who was also not all that well, bless him. But it was good to have a chat with him. I hope you're feeling better, Richard. And hey, maybe
maybe that's where you got it.
This is where I got it from. Delayed. There was a delayed reaction. So anyway, I hope you're feeling better, and it was good. And I had a chat with Honey as well. So that was all good. And what else? Who else would we see? Mares, and the guys had a chat with guys from Dive Log, who we need to have a chat with. So that was good. And then we also caught up with Luke Bullis and Dave Kennard. Luke Bullis from Fathoms Free, and Dave Kennard from NARC.
Neptune Army of Rubbish Cleaners, based in South Wales, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. So had a chat with him. I didn't hear Dave speaking because Dave didn't speak till the Sunday, but he was on the UK stage, and we did sit and listen to Luke, and he spoke really well, really clear, and they had their video going about how the charity got started. Now we only spoke to him recently, so if you're listening and you want to hear about their story, Fathoms Free, because they're trying to raise money, they do a lot of really good work on the Cornish Welsh coast. Go there and listen to them, or go to their website at least. Fathoms Free.
Fathoms Free. So they do a lot of recovery of ghost gear, discarded fishing nets, pots, and hope to get it recycled.
Because there's so much fishing going on down there, they are pulling out a ton.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, and that's why Waterhall, are busy down there as well, because they're doing the same. It's like, what are fishermen doing with all their nets? Do you know what I mean?
It's a disposable product for them, and
that's right. And that must cost a fortune. Obviously, a lot of money in fish, Gemma.
There is a lot of money in fish, believe it or not. Yes. But it's not just a case of discarding fishing line. When they discard it, it's still a fishing
lots of pots.
net.
Luke was saying that there was a change in the rules or something, and the people who were fishing, I think they come from somewhere else, and I can't remember what he was saying, but he was saying that the people who were fishing in the area with these big old pots and stuff basically abandoned them, all these pots.
Yeah. It's not good, is it? And then when those abandoned fishing pots are, they're discarded, they're still actively fishing, the nets are still in the sea, they're still catching live catch, and the catch is just dying. So it's I
don't want to go on and lecture, but could you imagine, right, farmers doing that and go, well, just abandon all this equipment on the fields.
Yeah, it's not good. No.
So why do fishermen do it? Because they're basically doing the same as what a farmer. If a farmer was to go, well, I'll just abandon this trailer here and
Yeah, but
things like that.
it's the whole thing, out of sight, out of mind, and this is the
But
whole
they
thing.
carry on catching. They
Yeah,
don't
they do.
stop. They carry on catching, and they pulled up a small dolphin and
Mm,
one that dead.
yeah,
Got trapped.
it's really sad. Yeah.
It's sad seeing stuff like that. Anyway, so that was a really good talk, and do go to their website. Who else? Who else? Who else? Oh, shout out to the guys at Stony, and I did literally shout out to them as well. I think they're trying to. I
So
think they're
these are
trying to
some of
run
the
away.
employees of Stony Cove. So you managed to see them and give them a yell.
I think they were trying to run away at the time, and cheeky lot. Anyway, so shout out to them so they can get away on the fourth element stand, which we'll come to shortly. Saw Tash and George, had a quick chat with them. You might want to look at Punk CCR on her Instagram because she's making all these fabulous sleeves that you can buy via the Narc at 90 website
Yes,
for
so
your
look at
rebreather.
Narked at 90, www.narkedat90.com.
Yeah, so look out for that. Arctic Adventures. Honey really took a shine to that, which is all about diving and exploring Iceland. Now we did speak to someone from Iceland, didn't we? And that's a real short flight to go and dive at Silfra or snorkel at Silfra.
Yeah, and have lots of adventures, lots to do in Iceland, an amazing landscape to see.
Yeah. So volcanoes. Who don't want to go see a volcano?
Hot springs. Yeah.
Yeah. I just you just can't imagine what the energy of that volcano must be like to hear. Shout out to Sally Cartwright.
East Midlands Diving Chamber.
Yes, big time for them coming up. Not going to go into it, but yeah, it's big time for them. We're all talking about budgets and things like that. Politics all gets involved. So good luck for them. And it's really important that we keep our chambers open.
Very
Us
important.
divers need our chambers. There's not enough of them as there is. So we need to make sure that all these diving chambers stay well supported. All right. And hopefully we might even get to go up there and have a chat to them and also have a look around, which would be really cool if we can later on in the year. So hello to Jurassic Aqua Sports and 03. So I went to see 03. Long, I've always dived in 03 stuff. And it was good to catch up with Tom.
Sean and Marcus.
Hold on, I think I missed the Tom out. There's another Tom.
There's 3 Toms. Tom.
Is there another Tom? How many Toms is
I definitely know there's 2 Toms.
I think they just breed them at 03.
They do.
They just call them Toms. Or is everyone down there just called Tom?
Yeah, something about that area.
Yeah. So Sean and Marcus saw them. And they've got a new dry suit. So I had a look at that. Very snazzy. And it's all custom made as well.
That's good.
So it's quite slim fitting. I don't think it's quite slim fitting, but it's custom made. So but it looks smart, it looks good.
Good. Yeah, we'll look that up.
Yeah, look them up. They're also, I should also say, while we're talking about 03, they are doing a good deal for instructors as well.
Yes.
So if you're an instructor and you're looking at getting a new dry suit, you might want to speak to 03 because they're doing good deals to instructors at the minute.
Yeah.
Garmin had a massive stand there as well. So hello to them. And also GUE, they were their big presence as well. And hello to Mr. Wake, So he went to see Chris. He was a busy bee with his tape measure around on the Sandy stand. He was on Sandy, and then next minute he's at sheer water, and then he's back on
We had a
Sandy
busy
stand.
Saturday.
He had a very busy day. Yeah. Actually, I think he was there on Sunday, possibly. So, but he was busy measuring people with his tape measure. Good one, Chris. So he was doing that. That's that. You can hear our rotor list. Who else were it? Master Liverboards, they were there. Jim Standing. Hello to Jim. Jim, we're going to send you an email because we want to get you on for a chat. We had a chat with Jim when we very first started.
Very early days. Yeah.
And Fourth Element have been with us, supported us right from the start, haven't they? You know, your very first dry suit was
it was a hydro dry suit.
supported by Fourth Element and your thermals.
Yes, my exotherms, and we've also had fins, masks, so been really, really good to us. Yeah.
They have, honey dives in those wreck fins and in
the dry suit now, and it looks really good.
Yeah. So Fourth Element have been brilliant all the way through, and we had a chat with Jim right at the start, and we were like green around the ears, weren't we, with podcasting, and we never recorded it as you did, or part of it, or something like that. I can't remember. It was middle of COVID as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just a catch up, wasn't it? But I think we definitely need to get Fourth Element on
chat, because Jim being one of the founders of Fourth Element, has got a story to tell. So
and they're very much into sustainability as well, which is really ocean positiveness. So definitely, and they're a worldwide brand now as well, but based in the UK, which is great to support.
And then Jake, JD Scuba, aka JD Scuba, had a good chat with him and a photo opportunity. Mr. Fitness, we should really call him, because
he is fit.
Amount of running that man does.
So he kind of encompasses dive fitness truly.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And
follow him on Strava. Look for him or follow him on his Instagram account. He's always doing something. That man that doesn't sit still, does he?
He doesn't. No, running up hills and in Wales. And
he's really by a car. You would find you don't have to run so far. But anyway, it was good chat, and we always catch up, and always good to see him. On stage, introducing everybody was Mr. Torbett. So hello to Andy, another previous guest, and he introduced everybody on the main stage to Ranva, Ranva was there. You probably know Ranva from Fourth Element as well. She and Maria, hold on.
Listeners is just having a slurp of
we're nearly
water.
We're nearly there. We're battling on, Gemma. We're battling on for the sake of our listener.
Just
I hope our listener is still here. Right. So Ranva gave a great talk, amazing photos. Unfortunately, Maria didn't make it because she was unwell. Another one. I feel her pain.
Yeah, there's a lot going around. So, but Ranva has been on as Ranva's been on as a guest.
She has.
Yeah,
a long while ago as well. She'd get back. She gave a great talk and showed us lots of photos, some of the colours of the caves. And I looked to my left and looked at Honey, and she's like getting closer and closer to the when you see meerkats, don't you? How they sort of like lift up from what they're sitting on or standing.
Entertained and enthralled.
Yeah, and that's what and that was lovely to see. And I whispered and I said, that could be you one day, if you really get into diving, and that's what you really do. Because she's really want to get into like marine science and stuff like that. So that was really good. And Ranva gave a chat on cave diving in Thailand. Some of these caves are just amazing, you know. And she was explaining about how the poo of the cities, where they because they're above these caves,
You mean the sewage?
yeah, filters down. So some of the caves you can't even go into it anymore.
No. And
They didn't realise that the governments didn't realise that they got currents in, not out, you know.
raisins and currants, you mean
Well, not
currents like
raisins.
moving water?
I do, yeah. That basically is sweeping all this stuff out into the sea where the reefs are.
Yeah. And
It's not good, is it?
yeah, and we've had a previous guest, Lisa Blair, a few episodes ago, saying that it's a fact. There's no pristine water on our planet anymore.
So some of the stuff that they are doing. So Ranver was explaining that somebody said to her once, and Maria, that you should dive with meaning, dive with what's the word?
Purpose.
Purpose, yeah. And she said, the reasons why they did a lot of this exploring out there was with purpose of these findings that they did, because they took this, this Nemo system that logs where they are, with GPS and things like that. Christina Zanato, when she came, told us about the Nemo system. And it's a good way you can log, and you could see when you put that onto a map, you can see where they've been and how much they've explored, and that's just a tiny, tiny little piece. And these caves go for miles potentially. There's so much more to explore there. So that was really good, and the fact that the findings are helping the governments make decisions on, sorting all the sewage problems out and things like that.
Incredible. Yeah, it was
So
good.
if you want to find out more, look at Ranva, look at Maria Boller up, look up Nixie, Nixie expeditions. So look them up. Or you can do similar things if you go to another website called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Look that up. All right. So that's another way you can do it. And you can get involved. But you obviously, that's not for anyone. That's going to be certain cave divers of certain caliber. And then finally went to see the guys at 90, have a chat with them. So I had a word with the team and had a chat with John and Brent, and they had the strobes hanging from the sea.
The Pathfinder Gen X strobe.
Yes, they had them, which a certain member of the team said she was going to be seeing them in her sleep, because they are super bright. You don't realize how bright they are until you're standing next to them. Can you imagine standing next to one of them all day for 2 days and they're flashing away?
No, we've had them in the pool and they are bright.
Yeah, seriously bright. We're going to be diving with them soon. So yeah, looking forward to getting them properly wet. Yeah, so that was good. It's good to spend a bit of time with them. John and Brent particularly was giving us a lot of information on some wrecks for people like Honey, so it was be safe to explore. Yeah, so that's quite good. One of them was called the Hobart. I think that's called Hobart. So we've got to look into that. And yeah, I had a really nice chat with Brent, with Honey. So that was good.
Yeah.
And that kind of drew it to a close, really.
It's a good show then.
Yeah, it's a lot to go through. And you think, I was only there for the day. So imagine if I'd been there for 2 days.
Yeah,
Obviously, all the other speakers and stuff. So to say to Mark, I'm going to say something just for an idea for next year. You don't know I'm going to say this.
No.
I don't want to say that. I don't mean this as a criticism, because it's not. Because those dive shows take a lot of organising, and they're good shows, and they're well followed, and everything else. The only thing I would say is that one thing I noticed is that there's not that many young people. There's not many young people at the show. Not on the Saturday. I can't
Oh.
speak for Sunday, so maybe there was more on the Sunday.
So you're
But on the
saying,
Saturday, the average age, I would suspect, if somebody actually took stats and noted, I would say the average age was about 40, 45.
so we have an aging population of divers. It's a fact.
Yeah. And if you look at all the speakers, and they're really good speakers, not you really high caliber speakers, all had something to bring, all had something to say. All right. Again, the average age of those speakers, probably about 40, 45. And there's a lot of young people out there doing great stuff. And maybe we don't even get to hear of them, and we should. And it worries me because I see, businesses struggling, and we know this. I'm not going to mention names, but you only got to do your own research out there. What's going on in the diving world of certain brands who are struggling, not doing the best at what they possibly could. Names who we know and dive with for years. All right. And for this sport that we love and cherish and want to do and do more of to survive, we've got to get new divers, got to get youngsters involved, got to engage with them and get them along, and then keep them and get them motivated. This is what I say to Honey, and I've said to the people who I met over the weekend, is I want to keep it fun for her, because she puts a dry suit on, it's heavy, and she's got all the weights and stuff like that. And then our climate, the water's freezing cold,
Yeah, but you've got to make it fun
Gotta
and
keep it fun.
sustain the interest.
So the only thing I would say to Mark, if Mark does listen to this, or and Mark's team, is you got to look at the speakers well, and get youngsters involved, get youngsters to talk about why do they start diving, get more youngsters to come in, and and talk about social media, because youngsters who are engaged in social media are much more than us.
Yeah.
And we might not. You've got to have the spread. You've got to have the spread from the older divers. There was a Alistair from AP coming along. I don't know how old he is. And it's good. You've got that experience. And one of the things I said to John and Brent was, Brent, we were talking about dive computers and stuff. It's thanks to people like those guys, the John Chattons of this world, the people who went diving in the 80s and 90s. Hold on. The people who went diving in the 80s and 90s with these rebreathers, with a set of spanners as well, who were fixing them, who went down there knowing they were going to break, knowing they had to fix them to get back, knowing that they had these early diving tables, knowing that they had to do all sorts of things with dive computers to get them to work and stuff. So people like you and I and Honey and other people can just slap them on the wrist and go diving.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
we've
we
got to
stand on their
appreciate that.
shoulders. So, but we need to get the youngsters involved to get them to come on. So we need the youngsters too. So what I'd say to Mark is, great show, really good. Thank you very much. Well organised. Everything else felt safe. Great seeing everybody. But next year, get some young speakers just coming on talking about diving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all it takes, just to give that inspiration and that view of where you can go from just learning recreational diving, and you can make it a career, you can just have a hobby, but it can go very, very far.
Yeah. Let me know if you disagree. I'm not saying we don't want the older ones. I'm not saying that at all. I'm
But
saying just bring in the youngsters as well.
Yeah, the older ones, the more mature ones are the pathfinders, and they have shown a way. But we do need the younger generation and people to inspire the younger generation to dive, but to continue diving as well, not just treat it as a one-off and, oh, I've tried it, I'll move on to the next thing. That inspiration's got to be maintained, and that freshness and fun, and you've got to come out of that water smiling always.
Yeah, because we buy kit and that lasts forever these days.
It's not a disposable item, all this kit. It's made to last. Yeah.
So you need the youngsters to come on who are going to go, hey, I like that shiny stuff, I'm going to buy one of them.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you said it, and everybody, I think knows it is a truth. So we need some.
Tell me I'm wrong, people. Tell me.
No, don't tell you right. Yeah, we need some young speakers.
No, tell me I'm wrong. I want to hear if I've got it wrong. No. I don't think I have. I think we need to get the youngsters.
Yeah, and come up with some ideas what we can do to inspire these youngsters, even in schools.
Yeah.
I didn't know about diving when I was at school.
No, well, yeah, you might saw Jack Cousteau or some of the other ones,
No.
Didn't you? Okay. No. Maybe you didn't. Well, you don't watch telly, dear. Do you have a telly?
Yes, I do.
Paid for it. Do you get TV in paid for?
Just.
We know you don't watch many films. Anyway, my voice is dying, so it's time to get a guest on.
Yes, so we've covered the Go Diving show, and we're now going to talk to Osama, who is in Mexico, and hear about his cave diving exploration.
Thanks for sticking with us. Sorry about my voice. Let's get the guest on. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hello. We
my camera should also work. Hold
there
on.
We go. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy we could finally find a date where we could get together, basically.
Yeah.
Yes, good to see you.
Yeah, and it's really good
to
that
see you guys.
We've been connected by your friend Anela Martin as well.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I guess you two know each other with offshore work.
Yes, correct. I know Aniela from offshore work. She's working for the same company as myself, and I just saw her 2 weeks ago when I left the vessel in Greece, and she had to rejoin. She was, I think, for 3 weeks traveling here in Mexico, where I live actually in the time I was at work, and she's back at work now, and I'm enjoying my time off at the moment, which is quite
nice.
Yeah, no, that's good. So
hi everyone, my name is Osama, and I'm here with Gemma and Ian on the BiG Scuba podcast, where we talk about all things diving.
Great. Well, welcome to the BiG Scuba podcast. And whereabouts are you based at the moment?
Hello guys, thank you very much for having me. I'm based at the moment in Quintana Roo, Mexico, which is where I live since 12 years now, and where I settled purely to follow my passion of diving, basically. So that's where I am for, at least I live here full time, but through my job I travel a lot, but I'm at least like 6 to 8 months of the year here in Mexico, basically.
Wow, great place to be. Yeah. So how did your diving journey start?
My diving journey started, I guess, in a way a little bit unusual. None of my family, was a diver, is a diver, or indeed is very sporty. But in a certain way, I would like to say it was always meant to happen that I would be a diver. I was always, as a child, absolutely fascinated by nature programs, and specifically underwater programs. I just couldn't see enough of like fishes and coral reefs and those things. And then, as luck would have it, when I was 11 years old, I was with my dad actually for a very short Red Sea holiday in Hurghada, and we just went a normal hotel resort type of thing, and there was some discover scuba diving in the hotel swimming pool, nothing very exciting, 2 meters deep, I don't know, 10 meters long, whatever, do a couple of rounds. But I was a 11-year-old boy, and breathing underwater for me was absolutely amazing. And then they told me, to my big dismay, after that, whatever it was, 1 hour session, although I do still remember it quite well, they told me that I'm unfortunately too young to do an open water course back then. You had to be 12 years old to do a class, basically. But being Egypt and things are being more relaxed, especially at that time, they told me, well, why don't you come for the rest of the week just diving with us on the boat without qualifications anyway. I didn't know, of course, as an 11-year-old boy, what safety standards were and this and that. I didn't know what I didn't know, so to speak. So I just came along for a week of diving, and we probably, in hindsight, didn't go very deep. I guess the dive master at the time probably took me to a few meters depth. He constantly held my hand, but I was just, as far as I was concerned, I was a scuba diver, and that's what I did for a week. And I really was hooked ever since. I went back the next year, did finally my junior open water course, and kept on diving really ever since without break, which was not always easy because obviously I didn't live in a tropical environment. I'm originally from a small village in Austria.
Wow.
We do have a lot of lakes, but the whole nature of being cold water diving requires a lot more equipment than just a pair of swimming trunks and whatever I regulate in a scuba jacket. So, but I was quite lucky to then even continue my dive journey in Austria, and piece after piece, I sort of, got my equipment, got my experience. Luckily, I had an older sister that dutifully drove me to various lakes in Austria to dive sites and be back. Like, whenever there was a couple about to go for a dive, I just asked if I could come along. I didn't really have dive buddies. None of my friends at that age certainly was diving. So, I just took every opportunity I could get really to get as much diving in as I could at that time, being a teenager in Austria.
Wow. Yeah. So you've got that experience of warm water diving and cold water diving coming from Austria.
Yes. Yeah, correct. And that's always, like, for me, was always, I guess obviously at this time I preferred seeing fishes, but I think to this day, I think, any dive is better than no dive, just the feeling for being underwater. I think we all have that in common as divers. It's just, it's always at the end of the day, you might moan about the temperatures, about, the hustle we have to do when we have to replace equipment, when we have to service equipment. But any diving day at the end of the day is better than a non-diving day. So, and I think that holds true probably for all of us, but to this day. So,
Yeah. Sounds good. You've got quite an experience. I was looking through your CV, and so scuba. Just going to list it out. Scuba diving since 1993. Scuba diving instructor since 2000. Technical trimix diver since 2005. Cave diver since 2007. 5,000 dives, 1,500 cave dives, and 400 dives on trimix. That's quite a CV.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think it's scuba has always been my big passion, and that's the one thing throughout that I followed through, and I was indeed very lucky enough. Or I just sort of decided to take matters into my hand. When I finished school in Austria, I actually moved to the Red Sea. I was 18 years old. I moved to the Red Sea and did a training. It was working for your training. I spent a year to become a scuba diving instructor. And then actually I planned to go to England to go to university, but I canceled those plans and stayed 2 more years in the Red Sea and worked as a diving instructor. But I think so that's how I very quickly gained a fair amount of experience.
Yeah.
But absolutely zero money to pursue technical training. So I think I was forced at the time, because my interest was maybe greater than my experience. We sort of did maybe a number of dives. So equipment configurations, which I wouldn't be too proud of these days, but in the end of the day, everything is experience. And then eventually I did actually decide, okay, I should get some form of further education. I moved to England finally. I decided to study in Plymouth in the southwest because that's where there was the only university, as far as I knew at the time, that had a diving center. There was greater diving opportunities, and little by little, then in my time in the UK, got into technical diving, and later on, once I had the money to get into cave diving, and that I think that was always really where I wanted to head. That was always my big passion, and by luck, I structured my life so that I fully live that at the moment, basically.
Yeah. So what did you study at Plymouth University?
A study called underwater science. So basically seabed mapping. That's how I know Aniela. I'm working as a hydrographic surveyor, an offshore surveyor, and sort of the mapping side of things, also now in combination with mapping unknown caves, is sort of my big passion, and where I combine like just the feeling of being underwater, the diving, with sort of maybe more, I don't know, academic work, or more sort of data crunching behind the scenes, like in the evening, instead of maybe watching a movie or something, I sit down with a glass of wine or a beer and work on cave maps or 3D models of caves. So I feel I sort of devote most of my time certainly to what is these days the study of caves, and then of course professionally of mapping in the offshore environment, seabed mapping and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you're truly aquatic.
Yeah, truly aquatic.
So
yes.
we've spoken to a lot of guests that are cave divers and a lot of guests that specialize in wrecks. So what led you down the cave route and the overhead environment route?
So where I was living in the Red Sea for a few years, and where I visited throughout university, was in the north of the Red Sea, in the Sinai Peninsula in Dahab. And Dahab, with the famous Blue Hole, the canyon, it has a lot of geologically interesting dive sites. It sort of, compared to what we maybe do now, it's maybe a little bit benign, but there's a lot of sort of interesting swim-through sea caves, and I think but there's no wrecks because it goes very deep. There's, except for further down in the strait, closer to Sharm el-Sheikh, obviously, you have the Thistlegorm and all that, but in Dahab, we never had any wrecks, but we had the opportunity that all the diving is shore-based, of just taking the part from the trip from the dive center, and I don't know if we would do like 2 or 3 working dives per day. We would always add a couple of fun dives, either in between or afterwards, sometimes 5 dives a day, and always still at that time, exploring the sort of swim-throughs and canyons. And I think I realized very quickly that was where I wanted to head, but then it wasn't really something I didn't exactly know the path, or, training existed, of course, cave training existed already, but it was far. It was in places like now in Mexico or something. I couldn't even think to afford to come into Mexico to take a cave class. But so the first thing I did actually in the first week when I arrived in Plymouth in 2002, I think, I signed up to the Plymouth Caving Group and started dry caving in the UK. And then in that time, also in Somerset, you have a few caves where, I was brave enough. I had a good friend. He was a cave diver already. We explored some of those caves. We dove some of those caves. I wasn't certified at that time. Maybe some of the more, let's say, stupid things. But I always followed that through. And then eventually, I think 2 or 3 years later, I could afford the training. I headed to France and did my cave training and did that. But what also really got me more and more into caves was just a little bit of a logistical problem. I always wanted to, I was already technical diving certificate. I was very interested in all the cool wrecks you have in the UK, but usually during the summer I would work offshore, and then it would be the spring or fall time where we had to book places on boats to get my diving opportunities. And quite often, due to the weather, we were obviously blown out, and I realized that booking a dive weekend somewhere on the UK coast, if it wasn't directly in Plymouth, I would need to book accommodation. I would need to book my space on the boat. If it gets cancelled, I maybe get another, place on the boat, but not directly a money refund. And I really wasted. There was one year where summed it all up. I wasted a lot of money on cancelled trips, basically, and then I couldn't make the follow-up trip because I would be offshore. And then I was like, well, actually, it's almost just as easier to go in twice a year to Florida or France for cave diving. That's really what we started to doing. We headed to Florida a lot in that time to cave dive whenever we could, basically. So. And that finally sealed the deal. I think in 12 years now in Mexico, though we have the reef diving just outside the doorstep, I probably did 20 dives in the sea, I think. And I don't know. Unfortunately, I do not keep a logbook, but I would say well over 2,000 dives in caves by now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, a lot of people do a lot of dry caving in the UK. We've got some good caves like Wookey Hole and with all the swim throughs.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I lived actually quite long. I left the UK straight from England. I moved to Mexico in 2012, and then being certified, I was with the cave diving section. In the UK, I was part of various dry caving clubs in Somerset. So absolutely amazing. I do love, and I still have very good friends of the whole dry caving scene in the UK. I think some of the whole sort of cave scene of the UK, there's absolute amazing people, groundbreaking explorers around the world. It's been for me probably the single most learning point and mentorship in my diving career that I carry from that time, basically. I would definitely say so. Like that, having learned and having become comfortable of dry caving and cave diving in the UK made me what I would say truly comfortable in any underwater cave environment in the world, whether it's deep, whether it's clear water, whether it's bad visibility. It's if you train in the UK, you're doing it the hard way, I think.
Yeah, they do say that about the UK, because even in the open water, visibility is not always good. And if you can dive in the UK, you can dive anywhere.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, there's a bit of a difference in general, I think, between dry diving and dry caving anyway. Obviously, diving is very, maybe let's say, regimented. You have established classes, established programs, you have certifications for everything, whereas the dry caving is very club-based, which is, and sort of the club system in the UK for many sports, but that's quite unique. So the whole mentorship aspect, is much, much bigger, sort of in terms, you only really get trained or you get to where you want to go if you actually show up. It doesn't really matter how big or small your wallet is. The important thing is you show up, and you will find somebody that trains you for free. That these days is sometimes absolute unheard in the sort of more commercial side of the recreational diving world, basically. But in caving, that's very normal. There's very few established courses in the caving world, and you just learn from somebody that knows. And originally that was the same for me, even from a cave diving, so that is, I think, unique and a little bit unique to the UK caving scene in particular. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why so well-trained people come out of that, because they are the ones that didn't give up and they just stuck with it and took matters in their own hand and whatever, went exploring all over the world, basically.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Good UK.
Shout out to the UK cavers for sure.
So while you're in Mexico, so what's your role? Are you exploring? Are you trying to discover new caves?
Yeah, I'm actually, it's a combination for me. I do teach, I also teach cave diving classes to all levels for global underwater explorers. I do that to, let's say, a minimum that where it keeps my passion, where I'm still engaged. I absolutely love teaching divers, sharing my passion, sharing my knowledge. But of course, I do have another job, which is offshore surveying, so I'm maybe less bound to the commercial pressures of teaching diving. You know, I can choose when I go in the water or who I teach, so that makes things a little bit more relaxed. And my big passion is really the underwater exploration. For me, it's been very normal. I think I never decided to become an explorer, and I think that's what I meant with sort of the UK has given me a big mentorship. You know, it was always normal to choose a project, to choose a dive where we could accomplish something. And for me, exploring new caves, so in particular for me, mapping those, but those are usually on the exploration dive, we include the mapping and then creating the maps of places, you know, people have never been to. Seeing, you know, connecting the dots, so to speak, is probably my biggest driving factor.
Yeah. So when you're in a cave exploring an unknown area, do you take equipment down to map the area? Have you?
Yes. So as a rule, we always dive in a team. A team can be a minimum of 2 people and can be as big as 20 people. We've done many different projects involving many different dive teams as well, where we just sort of on day 1, a team of 2 divers go explore. On day 2, the next team takes that knowledge and sort of explores further. And we always aim for sort of the saying goes that you haven't explored unless you come back with data, basically. And because you know, it's part of my profession being the surveyor. I'm also, of course, in the cave environment, the surveyor on the team. And then, although we are all capable of doing the survey, I'm usually the one who adds it on the computer in the evening on the days or weeks to follow. And I usually get a bit grumpy if some people made mistakes with the survey data. So more often than not, I elect to be the surveyor, basically. So number 1 would lay the line through the cave. Obviously, we always lay a line to find our way back. So there would be the diver ahead of me laying the line, and I'm immediately behind that diver, you know, 1 station behind, doing the survey, using whatever equipment is necessary. We have had huge advances in recent years of, you know, having more and more digital survey tools in dry cave as well as in underwater cave. And we just manage per dive to accomplish way more exploration because it's so much easier to survey those caves these days and way more accurate as well. So when it's all said and done, if things went well, we went to an absolutely new cave, we laid the line, we did the video and the survey. Usually we lay the line and survey on the way in, the video on the way out. And everything is done after that first dive, and we can explore a new part the following day. So that's very efficient, basically, and that works quite well.
Yeah. So it's obviously different going through small spaces. What's your dive configuration? Are you rebreather, side mount?
For me, the dive configuration, it's a little bit interesting. I have to maybe be careful what I say now. I'm teaching for global underwater explorers who are quite standardized in the equipment approach. But at the same time, for me personally, really, equipment has always been sort of means to an end. I'm not really that much focused. I haven't got really a favorite equipment configuration. And these days, having done this so long, I do basically everything from open circuit, back mount or side mount to CCR, back mount or side mount. We usually have a back mount rebreather, a side mount rebreather in our configuration. And because we're going usually very remote these days, I think in terms of exploration, 99% of our exploration dives involve CCR equipment, either side mount or back mount, just because it's easier on filling logistics if we're in the mountains somewhere, or if we're deep, or in long underwater caves, we can just stay much longer and have the freedom of choice, basically. So I think in terms of probably the most used equipment these days would be a side mount rebreather, I would say.
Yeah. The caves that you're working on at the moment and exploring, what they're like? Sort of, can you paint us a picture? Are they, you know, are we talking big caverns, or are we talking sort of really tight, sort of climb through channels?
So, although I live in Quintana Roo in the Yucatan Peninsula, which is obviously world famous for its cenotes, for its big, clear cave systems, enormous, the world's biggest cave systems. I mean, there's far more than 2,000 kilometers of underground passages in a very, very small space. Within an hour's drive from right where I sit at the moment, you can just dive for days basically underground. But and we do a lot here. It's for me, it's a huge playground. It's my local dive sites. It's where we keep active, where we train, where we practice, where we keep sharp basically. But at the same time, we do not have any mountains here. The Yucatan Peninsula, I don't know if you've been here on a holiday, diving holiday or not. It's very flat. It's dense forest out there with those sinkholes, cenotes, and underground rivers, i.e. caves, which are so famous to dive. But it's very flat. There's hardly any elevation at all. So there's absolutely no mountains. But coming from Austria, I really started to, and coming from a dry caving background as well, I really started to miss the mountains. And obviously, Mexico is a huge country, and it has a lot of mountains. It has very tall mountains. So what I started to do a lot is exploring more and more in Mexico, is particularly in the northern part of Mexico, where you have very tall mountains up to 3,500 meters of elevation, and where you have just as big cave systems as here in Quintana Roo. A lot of them are dry cave systems with sumps in between, and that sort of has become more or less my specialty, the sump diving, I think, which again is something I brought with me from the UK basically, and is very, it's very different in terms of challenges. The dives are maybe less long, they can be very, very deep. The water can be not so clear because it's water runoff from the mountains, and of course you have the technical challenge of getting to the dive site, right, which might be several kilometers inside a dry cave system in the mountains, and getting to the cave entrance requires maybe hiking. So some of those expeditions are taking up to a month, up to 10 days camping in the cave just to get to the water and start your dive operation. So it's very different from the clearwater cenote diving here in Quintana Roo, basically.
Yeah, it's really, time consuming as well, and sounds quite physical as well. So you must be need to be physically fit and strong.
Yeah, I think physical fitness is required at that level of diving, and that shows all the time when we have big teams, and it shows that the fitter you are, the more you can do this day in, day out, basically. So physical fitness is absolutely important. And then I think, again, by living here in Quintana Roo and being able to dive whenever I want to, really, we have the advantage that we are mainly dived in when it comes to expedition day, right? We're usually ready to start on day one with the show, so to speak. So, particularly me and my dive buddy, here in Quintana Roo, we do that together. It takes a lot of time, as you say, because we need to bring the diving equipment there. Where we go on an expedition on Sunday actually, and it's a 25 to 30-hour car drive just to get to the area where the caves are. So it's a lot of driving involved basically as well. And yes, then there's a lot of, if you do sump diving, you have to go between sumps with all your equipment on, and maybe you have to sleep between sumps and bring all your cooking and camping gear and dry tubes and so on. So it is really strenuous, but it is very rewarding, I think. For me personally, although the distances are shorter, it's more rewarding to explore a cave in the mountains than right here in Quintana Roo, where there's miles and miles and miles of unexplored passages. It's very uncomparable. We do much more here in terms of distance, in terms of dive duration. But because it's more normal to be able to explore here, I would say it's less rewarding. rewarding rather than being in the mountains.
Yeah. So it's uncharted territory you're seeing in the mountains, then you're laying the lines.
Yeah, very much so, especially here in Mexico. There's so many. I mean, I think within an hour's drive between Tulum and Playa del Carmen, I'm pretty certain it's the highest density of cave instructors in the world. However, I guess dive instructors usually don't have much money. Not many people actually go out and explore in the further reaches of Mexico, and many of the dive sites, especially in northern Mexico, they have in fact been dived in the 80s and 90s. But a lot of the caves we are diving, they've been last dived by people like Jack Exley or something. So you see pieces of line, you see arrows from Jack Exley from over 30 years ago, and they haven't been dived since, So in some ways, it's quite cool. It's going back in history. He, of course, used to drive from Florida to northern Mexico, where he also, like, for example, Nacimiento del Monte, where we're going next week. He did his world record dive, I think, in 1986, if I remember correctly, something like 263 meters, which is very deep by today's standards, which is far deeper than I'm willing to dive. But already in the 80s, these guys dove in those caves and did amazing stuff. And then since the mid-90s, these places have hardly been dived anymore. There is no local cave divers. That's why we have to bring everything from here. There is no infrastructure. Everything is quite deep in those nacimientos in the north. That's on the border to Texas, in the very north of the country. And by and large, we made that our playground and keep going there 2 or 3 times a year to explore and go into uncharted territory, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And is there any signs of like earlier life in any of these caves?
Here in Quintana, there's a lot of signs of early lives. In the caves in the north, not so much, because again they're very technical. Sometimes you need to upsail into the cave down several pits until you get to the water table, or they go very quickly, very deep, and they do get flooded. They have a lot of flow, maybe like river systems or underground rivers in Europe. So most of any archaeological remains, let's say, they would have been washed out. And up in the north, as far as I'm aware, they didn't have a culture of sort of what's famous from Mexico, the Mayans, human sacrifices and so on in the cenotes. That is not true for the north. We have a few sites where we found like shaped stones and stuff. So definitely some sort of underwater shrines or something, or where people sort of donated something to whatever god they were asking for permission or for luck or whatever. But we do definitely see less archaeological and paleontological remains than we do here in the south in Quintana, basically.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. And then on the other side, you've got your career where you're doing seabed surveys. So that must be it's another form of exploration as such. You're going into the unknown.
Correct. The truth is, it's sometimes just hours and hours of boring seabed, but we do find, constantly I'm working a lot in the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean Sea, the sea in general for us humans has always been, a road in a way to get from A to B, and the less or the more moderate the seas, for example, the Mediterranean Sea, ancient civilizations, there is a lot of archaeological remains down there. So sometimes you just survey along and completely unexpected, you find a new wreck, or you find pottery, amphoras and so on. So it's quite often very boring, but when it's interesting, it's usually very unique and very special, and you see very interesting things, basically. Yes.
Yeah. So what sort of depths are you working at in the Mediterranean Sea?
So for the So for my offshore surveying, just to make that clear, I'm not actually diving. We do send underwater robots, so we send ROVs, and that can be from any depth, from starting from 20 meters down to 3,000 meters. So I think that I would have to look it up, but I've not been working. The deepest I've been working in the Med is just over 3,000 meters off Egypt. I think the Med at its maximum is just shy of 4,000 meters deep, if I remember correctly. So yeah, sort of between, the first 3,000 meters we work quite regularly, and yeah, there can be all sorts of things, and you suddenly get, you just suddenly stumbled across a whale skeleton or something. Of course, at first you're like, what's that? Oh, that's bones. Oh, it looks like a skeleton. Oh, what is it? Oh, it looks like a whale. And it can be quite interesting, especially when you sit, I don't know, with a cup of coffee in the try on the ship, and you're watching the underwater feed. Yeah, exactly. It's sort of the gentleman's way of diving, so to speak. Yeah.
So it's really must be quite interesting and exciting at the same time to come across anything on the seabed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the whole seabed mapping, the whole, my professional studies in the UK, that was I always catered all of that around the diving. I knew it would be a niche where sort of I stay with the sea, I stay with the diving. I would be able to work as a freelancer because it's always project based, typically a month or 6 weeks on the boat and then a time frame off. If you would do it very regularly, it would be 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off. And well, I take my diving more important. So I'm usually 4 weeks on, 8 weeks off, or 12 weeks off. So I just, for me, money was never a big thing. It was just earn enough money to support my dive trips, basically. So I work as and when and cater my life, definitely. So I have time off. To go cave diving and follow those projects, which we do 4 to 5 a year, I would say, which is a considerable amount of time, obviously.
Sounds a nice work-life balance to me. So yeah.
Yeah, I can't complain. It took me a long time to get there, but I think it works quite well. I'm quite happy with how I've structured my life, I have to say. So yeah, I can't really say it was luck. I structured it this way, but it doesn't work for everybody. It comes in the costs of other things, maybe such as, I don't know, having a family, having a lot of money in the bank account. It's definitely the sort of adventurous, trying to stay young lifestyle. Maybe I get sick of it one day, but until now, it works very well.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
When you're in the caves, do you see any signs of like climate change or waste, litter, plastic?
We do. It's a very good question, but in terms of maybe not so much in terms of waste and plastic, but what unfortunately here being an absolute high tourist area, we do see more and more destruction of the caves. We do see more and more commercialization of those caves, and unfortunately, a developing country like Mexico, there all the caves are privately based. There's no state parks here in the area, so it's all about making bigger, more comfortable entrances, more cement poured into like, I don't know, staircases or something. It's not like, maybe, I don't know, just thinking Costa Rica or something that sort of put a lot of money on ecotourism. This for me here, it's sometimes sad to see, in fact, a lot of small cenotes, which were like maybe just a tiny little muddy puddle on the surface. They've been artificially enhanced by diggers and whatnot to make a big swimming hole, and that is very sad to see. So we do see, or of hotels, houses, the train that they build, pillars being erected directly into the cave, and I think any form of environmental studies and some things like this get quite often neglected. So we do definitely see that. And in the mountains, again, we do see a lot of wildfires. Sometimes we struggle going to places we want to go because it's literally, especially in sort of springtime when it's the dry season here, there's a lot of wildfires. They do get more and more. And we sometimes have diveable caves that used to be diveable all year round, and now they're only diveable half of the year because there's no water flowing anymore. You know, it has become a very dry area. There is acute water shortness, drink water shortness, and this is always, let's say, a dangerous path for us as cave divers because we have to be careful. You know, sometimes our mapping efforts and the good we actually want to produce by showing people what's down there and where the path of the water goes, because these are freshwater resources we have to keep in mind that we are diving in. But some people have commercial interests with freshwater resources, you know, so sometimes you get maybe offers that you get hired to create a map for somebody and you're like, wow, great, I'm getting paid to do what I love. Yes, of course, we would like to do that. And then you figure out that the intentions behind what you actually paid for are not very noble, let's say. So we have become very selective of what we do with our data and who we do it for. In general, we put it all online, we publish it all, but we generally have we've stopped doing sort of contract work for that matter because again, it's maybe of a lucky position where I can afford to do it, you know, for my own good, but you just sometimes don't know what happens with that, right? Landowners that want to dig up the cave in order to create an artificial swimming pool out of that fresh water and stuff. And these things happen down here because of the tourism. So this is sometimes a difficult question, really, what to do with the data that we gather, actually.
And I guess if all the caves are privately owned, it's very difficult to kind of give any control
and police it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's good that
this is much easier in you know, in places like in Europe or I don't know, in the state of Florida that actually puts huge investments because most of the springs in Florida, they are in state parks, you know, and I think the spring protection, for example, just last week I was out in Florida and was just great to see even road signs like this is a spring protection area, you know, things like this. You don't find that in Mexico. That you know, I can understand it. There's more severe problems in the immediate to deal with in places like Mexico, you know. But I think it's our task as well as divers in general. It doesn't matter if it's cave or the sea, you know, to be ambassadors and to keep beating the drum for conservation efforts, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because we are the eyes and the communication to the non-divers of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's very inviting what you do with your rubbish, right? That just throw it down the sinkhole. Nobody will ever see it, you know, you know, out of the eyes, out of the mind, basically, right?
Yeah.
So we have, unfortunately, as well here in Quintana Roo, a lot of caves, a lot of cenotes that are being used as landfill sites, you know, and it breaks my heart to see that, but I think it's a small shift that we can help in people's perception, you know, that those places are worth protecting, basically, you know.
Yeah, every little helps. Yeah. So what does the future hold? What have you got, any projects coming up?
Yes, so we're going to the north of Mexico, to Tamaulipas in 3 days' time. Yes, another 24-hour driving journey, and then we stay until the beginning of March. We do some fairly deep exploration there, so that's interesting. I think the next decompression chamber is over 10 hours drive away, so it's very important that we are very careful there. Unfortunately, all the caves are very deep, sub 100-meter diving, so that's challenges in itself. And then I do still go to around the world, really. I'm in Texas for a cave exploration project in May, and then in summer I'm usually in Europe. We do a lot of in France, Italy, Bosnia, Sardinia as well. So as I said, there's at least five cave projects a year that I try to include. Not always diving. I enjoy the dry caving as well. It's different challenges. It's definitely more scary for me. I'm definitely more of a newbie or a novice in dry caves. So that's sometimes, learning from others. But I enjoy the camaraderie in the dry caving. Obviously, we can talk. Usually we camp inside the cave, so it's just a bit of a different scene almost than just the cave diving. So I do throw 2 or 3 projects every year of dry caving into that mix as well.
Yeah. Out of interest, how long will you be in the cave for? How many days?
Now the project we're doing in 3 days time, those are all deep sinkholes where we just go in for diving. A dive can last anything from, I don't know, something like 5 hours to 12 hours. Quite usually we're like 8 to 10 hours inside the cave. But then when we camp into the cave, up to 2 weeks usually, and then sometimes, for example, Sistema Caver, a huge project, it's a month on site. It's up to 2 weeks in the cave, go back out, 4 days, just soak up the sunshine and do the same thing again for another 2 weeks. So that's a month's gone right there.
So
And you've
in the
seen
cave for
daylight
2
for 4
weeks?
days. Yeah.
In the dark?
Yeah. And that,
well, with
in
lights.
the dark, and I tell you, in the dark with lights, and I tell you what, I just said, like, I'm more of a novice. That's me being a supporter to the explorers in the front. That's me not even getting in 2 weeks to the very end of the cave. That's me bringing gear to the guys doing the exploration efforts in the very front. So carrying big payloads, 20 kilos bags, 1.5 kilometers down into the cave. It's 7 camps in total. So every night you sleep in a different underground camp, and you're just going forward day by day, and then you do it. You deliver your 20 kilos load, whatever it is, cheese, drill batteries, whatever they need, and you go 7 days back out. So the crazy thing is, if these guys miss something, if they, I don't know, SB9 is running out of a light battery, it takes a minimum of 7 days to deliver stuff to them, basically. That's how remote it gets. Yeah. And that, for me, in itself, is probably the appeal and the lure of that caving world, because there's just nothing else than human beings that can bring stuff down there. There's no drones, there's no professional government agencies that take over and do that. It's normal people like you and me that have to step
Just
in,
handballing it
basically,
down.
and explore those places. Yeah.
I don't know how you can cope with 2 weeks with no daylight, no sunlight.
Well, I'm afraid sometimes I wonder if I keep coping better down there than in the normal world, basically, getting anxious if I have too many humans, if I stand in the supermarket in a queue or something. And it is strange, you are like, same on the boat, like you have a time where you don't deal with normal things of life, like, I don't know, paying for what you eat. No, you just gotta, if you want to eat, you gotta cook, you gotta make it, right? So sometimes, like, when I just come from underground trip, or I come even from offshore, right? And you stand in a big supermarket and you just look around what you can just readily buy, or things like this. You're like, oh my God, where am I? Bring me back into my cave.
It's like another dimension.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. But it is strenuous. I mean, any cuts, any little scrapes and stuff, you get easily infections. You look bad, that you lose a lot. It's almost, you cannot replenish the calories in a day that you burn, basically.
Wow.
Definitely. I mean, I'm quite a thin guy, but I lost on my last trip, I think I lost almost 10 kilos, basically, which is a lot. But we eat high protein food. We create premixes that we only are freeze-dried food, where we only need to add water. But it's very hard to replenish between 7,000 and 10,000 calories per day that you actually lose by caving hard, basically. And you almost cannot eat that in a day, because you have a breakfast and you have a dinner at the end of the day, and maybe a Snickers bar in between. But no matter how much sugar or high protein you're trying to eat, everybody loses a lot of weight. So we do look very bad. That we feel good, we feel strong, But eventually, I mean, you wouldn't be able. I don't think you would be able to sustain it for, let's say, months on end. I think there is people like, for example, in the UK, fell short or something in the same caving area. Actually, he spent several weeks underground with a few days. So same thing, but even longer underground. I think his record was like, I think 28 days or something in one go, basically. But I don't really know of many people who would do that long. Eventually, I think you go pretty cuckoo if you don't see the
Do you keep a
sunlight
check
in
of what
between,
time
I
it is of
think.
the day?
We do, not all groups do. Some people, the Mexicans, for example, very, very accomplished dry cavers, a lot of the Mexicans guys, but a lot of the Mexicans, their style is, for example, you wake up whatever time of the day, and if everybody's awake and feels fit, you go and continue and explore, whether that is 2 in the morning, 9 in the evening, whenever. We do keep a watch and sort of try to stick to normal daylight hours. Also, because in some of the cave systems, we do have the luxury of communication with the outside world. We have radio systems in the cave, so we do communicate with base camp on the surface, and obviously they sticking to normal daylight hours. So we try to wake up early and then cave until the evening, do 12-hour caving days, and then definitely sleep longer hours than you would sleep outside, basically. I don't sleep that many hours as I would in the cave in the outside world, basically. But usually it's eat and just collapse on your air mattress and sleep.
But how are you communicating?
It depends. There's different systems. There's a system developed by a Swiss cave engineer. It's called CaveLink. That basically is a receiver in the cave and directly vertically above, and it can do a few hundred meters of depth. Directly above is an antenna, but that's not voice communication. That's just you basically send a text message to a modem out directly above, and that modem distributes then to any mobile phone you have sort of pre-dialed into. You would be able to leave a message. We use that in France when we do dive exploration beyond the sump, and there every night we just check in with the team on the surface and say, hey, we are safe, dive went well, we've eaten, we're going to bed now. In Chebet, for example, where we are for a month, where we are that long on the ground, we have telephone wire all the way, just laid it by people throughout the cave with relay points, and we just have a normal radio system where we speak to the base camp. So from over a mile depth, several kilometers into the cave, we speak to somebody outside in the tent every evening and just check in for the news of the world, basically. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, and I think these are, technological advantage that slowly that they become much better. So also down there we get maybe more, it's not more luxurious, but it's also safety factors, right? Speaking to people on the surface, should anything happen, we're able to get help. Not that, as I said, help would probably take 7 days to arrive, right? But at least you can, give a status update every day, and also tell everybody how the exploration is going, obviously. And if you have several teams exploring in the same cave system, you get an update from everybody. You can plan where to concentrate, the search for the main continuation of the cave, things like that.
In relation of what you're saying, so if you're in trouble, you say 7 days that can take for help to arrive. You think how far you can travel in this world in 7 days? Just for if I hopped on a plane tomorrow, where I could get to in 7 days, just it paints a picture of how remoteness, that you're diving. It's pretty, it takes a lot of planning.
No, exactly. You're absolutely right, and I think in terms of cave exploration, we're probably where humans were with mountain exploration, 70 or 100 years ago, where everything is super remote. And yes, you can still not fly, let's say, a helicopter to the top of Mount Everest, but you can probably get help quicker, or somebody down the mountain quicker than from inside the cave. And obviously, that's what I mean. There's no, there's no government organization that will come and rescue. It's cavers helping cavers, So if we are in a cave and we're exploring, I don't know, some 2 kilometers in a cave in France, long distances, underwater, long distances dry, should we have a diving emergency in the third sun, the only people that can come is other cave divers or ourselves. So we do also practice a lot in rescue techniques, bringing divers out on a stretcher, things like this, because it's actually sometimes easier to rescue ourselves within the group than getting outside help, sometimes when things happen, they usually quite, not to us, I mean, in general, when you see, I don't know, somebody stuck in a cave, and people on the media say, who should pay for all of this and stuff. Usually it's cavers helping cavers, people do that voluntarily. There's nobody that's earning big money rescuing other caver, but it's almost always a huge undertaking getting an injured person out of the cave. And really the aim with all of that is to be as safe as possible at all times, because it's, the consequences would be so severe. Obviously, it's
and we've seen the Thai cave rescue, George in the UK, and it's just huge efforts.
And again, I mean, I know a lot of these people because in the end of the day, it's a small world, right? And for example, hearing about George's rescue long before the BBC documentary was out there, I've been in this case several times, also diving, and when I heard through which entrance they came, where they had to go out, and you can, you immediately feel with the people. You just know what huge undertaking that is, and it's just, or the Thai rescue, where even the guys doing the rescue, they can almost not believe that idea that they have is really what they have to go with, because there is no playbook, basically, you have to really establish the rules, and you have to think up a scenario of how to best contact the rescue. And sometimes the rescuer themselves are like, we can't actually believe that worked, or that was the solution we came up with, and it worked. It is really incredible. So, but that in itself, I mean, that creates, I think, for me, that special community, that special world where people are there for each other, and I see this very, very strongly in the tri-cave world. I wish I would sometimes see a little bit more in the normal cave diving world, So,
no, that's good to hear. So it's all about the community.
Absolutely.
So we ask our guests several set questions. So the first one for you is, what gets you out of your comfort zone?
That's a good question. In normal life, in the cave, like in terms of danger?
Both,
I think I'm a very impatient person in a way, I think I appear very patient to other people, but I think, again, waiting in a line at the supermarket in a queue, that definitely gets me out of my comfort zone. In terms of character in people, I think what gets me a little bit out of my comfort zone is maybe time wasters, people that tell us, I would love to be involved, what you guys are doing, that's so amazing, And we do invite them and they don't show up, right? There's plenty of those situations. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always stress to people, there's nothing special that we are doing. We just happen to enjoy doing it. And it's completely okay if somebody says that's not for me. The majority of people would say it's not for me. But the ones that beg to be invited and get invited and then don't show up, that upsets me a little bit, because it's sort of playing on the good effort of others. What makes me nervous is probably hanging on a piece of rope. sometimes. So
So
that's quite
Really?
abseiling like down into a
Yes,
cave,
yes.
yeah.
I wasn't
I
expecting
started
that.
right. No, it's funny, and it's probably a little dark secret of mine. I think I'm afraid of altitude or exposure. Rather, I absolutely don't mind small places. I mean, I think no caver does mind small places. But when I was in university in the UK, I started rock climbing, and I was like, oh wow, rock climbing, coolest thing on earth. I'm becoming a rock climber. That's my thing. Of course, that was in the climbing gym, right? Then I had friends, they were climbers, they took me outside and I was like, oh my God. And to this day, if I upsail in a cave, I just put my light on the smallest beam. Ideally, I upsail in darkness because then it doesn't matter if it's 2 meter to 100 meters deep, right? If it's a big daylight pit, which you have plenty, especially in Yorkshire, oh my God, I don't do it enough to blindly trust the equipment. And then for me, the idea of hanging on a piece of string, i.e. a climbing rope that's 10 millimeters thick, it's just like, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you
Funny
doing?
how
So
the mind
every time I
works.
tell myself that,
Yeah,
I get
I find that
real.
amazing. You can't, it's heights, you can't cope, or they're difficult to cope with, but then small spaces, you're fine with small dark spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds cliche, but I cannot think. I mean, of course, everybody can panic, and I'm very lucky that I never had anything serious happening underwater. But in general, and I think like we all are, like the old saying, you leave your worries on the surface when you go diving. The same is for me for cave diving, even when what could be afterwards a scary situation, we do focus quite a lot underwater and we remain quite calm. I didn't, of course, in a 20-year cave diving career, there are stories when things didn't go to plan, but they are at the time a lot less upsetting than if you talk about it afterwards. So we do stay very focused. For example, people say when you explore a brand new cave, it's the best feeling in the world. I can't really share that, to be honest, because for me at that time it's work. I'm concentrating. Afterwards, you feel good because you accomplished something. But at the time I focus so much, I think of the tasks in hand, right? And that's sometimes counting numbers, checking azimuths. It's literally work underwater, and that's how it's quite easy. The time frame is very different. If you go fun diving and you stay 8 or 10 hours underwater, that would be too long, right? Nobody really likes to do that. But when we're working underwater, the time just ticks by incredibly fast, and before you know it, you cracked up a long time underwater. So it's very different. And yeah, we usually stay calm. So there's not many things I think in cave diving that would bring me out of my comfort zone. It's definitely more the people that bring me out of my comfort zone on the surface.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good answers. So what 3 people would you take with you into a cave or for a dive?
Well, that is a very interesting question. I would have to take Jacques Cousteau, because who wouldn't want to dive with Jacques Cousteau? I think he was obviously one of the biggest diving visionaries, groundbreaking stuff. He did a lot of cave diving actually at his time. He did things like, rather than all those amazing sort of expeditions with corals and marine life, he did things like exploring the Britannic and stuff, at a time where the word technical diving didn't exist. Very similar, and for the same reasons, I would take Jack Exley, the grandfather of sort of modern cave diving, especially having been very lucky, having been the next diver after him in our expedition areas in the north of Mexico. I mean, that's it's more of a coincidence, but it made me appreciate even more what he did, as early as the 70s and the 80s. Many of his places we will never reach. I will never dive to 270 meters or something like this, like these are accomplishments that probably will hold its place in time for many years. So actually Jacques Cousteau, and then probably, to be honest, somebody from my family, because none of them dive, and I think they have no idea what I'm really doing. They kind of know, but they think I'm standing with flip-flops on the beach.
Do they snorkel?
In the Caribbean. No, they're very unsporty. They're very afraid of living things, I think, So I tried to teach my sister dive class once. She just could not. I took her for an intro dive, and she calmed down, but she was really panicky underwater. But my parents have always been super supportive in what I do, but I think they just can't fully picture it, which that would be awesome. Just, I don't know, taking my mom for a dive. I think she's 81 years, she almost drowned when she was a little child. She can swim, but she absolutely hates anything more than her bathtub, I think. But taking her diving, that would be awesome, of course.
Yeah, it's special to share it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then our final question, if you could have a billboard that the whole world could see and you could put a message on it or a picture or a video, what would you put on your billboard?
I think I would steal the message from Nike, just do it, basically. I think that's just, for me, that just sums it up in 3 words. Just do it. If you have something in mind, don't be afraid to dream big. I would probably add 3 dots and add with love and compassion, because especially in the sort of technical world, there's a lot of egos involved. There's a lot of machism involved with sort of, diving and technical diving. So I think sort of being kind to other people, even if you're doing maybe, some not everyday stuff, goes a long way, in how you behave to others. But I think the recipe for doing what you like to do is just go out and do it. Find a bunch of people that you admire, where you can. I'm a huge fan of mentorship, where you can learn things and just involve yourself, show up, whether it's wreck diving, whether it's, there's so many areas of diving. Diving is really more of a lifestyle than a sport, and many people drop out. We all know the problems with diving. If you haven't dived for a long while, it becomes more hassle to go diving again. But at the same time, I would love to be involved in underwater photography. I just haven't gotten around yet to learn that, or going on big safaris underwater where I watch, I don't know, sea life, around the world. And I hope that one day I find more time to pursue those things. So I think I might not always obviously stay as active as I'm now with cave diving, but I hope I always stay associated with diving in various ways, because I think it's a lifestyle statement rather than just a sport, I'd say.
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah, great answers.
Yeah.
So for anybody listening out there, if they wanted to follow you or sort of maybe make contact, reach out, where is the best place for people to find you? Have you got social media platforms?
Listen to the BiG Scuba podcast. I'm a little bit old school. I am on social media. I'm on Facebook, but I am only on Facebook. I never signed up to Instagram or TikTok or whatnot. I think I can sometimes fall a bit into of the negativity of the social media world. I was for years not on social media at all. Then friends told me, as a diver, you have to be on Facebook. Okay, I became member of Facebook, and then people said, now you have to be on Instagram. And I think by that time I had high enough self-esteem to say, no, I don't have to do anything really. So I do follow diver stories on Facebook. I do post myself occasionally when we get up to any new adventures, but yeah, pretty much Facebook is the best place to find me, or find me here in the caves. Basically, I'm always happy to meet up and talk with divers and go for a dive.
Yeah, well, we'll put the link to your Facebook page in the show notes, and yeah, you've got some amazing pictures on there. I had a look earlier, and it's just incredible. So lots to inspire people. Yeah. Yeah. So that's been.
What about you guys? Where are you based in the UK, actually?
So we're in the east coast of England. I'm right on the coast, and Ian's a little bit more inland. So it's kind of quite rural where we are. We don't have any caves where we are, I don't think, do we?
No. And the coastline is a little bit. We have a short window on our coast of diving, really.
Just down to
And for
visibility.
inland dive sites, where you usually go diving.
Stony Cove is our
Stony Cove.
go-to, and then we've been to other sites, haven't we?
Yeah,
Bobster, Raisbury, Cape and Ray. Yeah,
Nice.
so yeah.
Gildy.
Yeah. No, it's nice. I was always Wobster based, basically. I didn't like you had to, I don't know if it's still the case, but you had to get up again. You had to start queuing at like 5 a.m. or something to get the bottom car park at Stony Cove. That was always one too many. You were a little bit too early for me, basically. But I've been to, I think, all of the inland dive sites in the UK in my time in the UK. Quite often, unfortunately, it's the only option, right? The weather not always being as nice as it is. But I mean, I remember some of the diving down in Plymouth, especially in summer, or pre-summer, late spring when you have long days. Be almost tropical down there. The amount of fish life around the wrecks. I mean, to this day, I think it's some of the coolest diving I've done. It's just something about being on a wreck, coming back to Plymouth Sound, in the early evening, maybe going for a pint in the pub after a good diving day. That's really what it's all about.
They're diving all year round there. Because of their visibility, that they get such good visibility all year round, and where ours is just churned up on our east coast.
We've been to we've been to Lundy as well. In Farne Islands.
Nice.
It's good. There's a lot to offer. Lock in Scotland.
Nice. I always go through very big lens in pointing out that I hate cold water, but it's actually absolutely not true. I do love cold water diving. I just make a big fuss about it. But I think some of the probably most interesting dives I've done are around the UK or up in Norway. It's just fantastic. The marine life, especially when it comes to the sea, is fantastic. And then sometimes in winter when it's calm, you can have the best visibility anyway, algae blooms and stuff. So I do have very fond memories of that time, basically.
Yeah, that's good. Lots of variety in diving, and you've spoken about it in this podcast. It's great.
Cool.
Yeah, well, that's been a really good conversation, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and it's been really entertaining.
Absolutely,
brilliant.
Thank you very much. Yes, I had a good time, and all the best for you guys. I keep listening in. And
thanks for coming on.
We talk soon again. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So that was a brilliant podcast, I thought, wasn't it? Something a little bit different. With very passionate about caves and dry caving and diving.
I'm kind of stuck. So 2 things. 1, nervous about dangling on a rope. And 2, and if anyone's listened to this, if his mates, his caving mates listen to this, they'll be going, "You're right up there on that rope." So he's opened a can of worms with that one. But 2 weeks, that's
I can't imagine.
Underground.
2 weeks in not seeing the sky.
Yeah.
Not seeing.
Well, it takes some doing, actually.
Yeah. Mentally strong. Yeah.
So here we go, right? Do it for the BiG Scuba podcast, right? So we normally do a recording in 2 weeks. So you've got to put yourself in a cupboard. Don't come out for 2 weeks, right? Until it's time for the next recording or when we do. Imagine that.
No, I just difficult to imagine. And in that kind of environment, it's not going to be bright and airy. It's going to be damp,
cold,
muddy, dirty. So, but they do it for the love of exploration.
Yes, that is some. I don't think when you think back of all the cave divers that we spoke to quite a few cave divers. I could be wrong in what I'm about to say, and let's face it, I often am. I don't remember anyone else ever saying to us that they go into a cave and will stay in there for like 2 weeks. I know I know Andy has said to us, he takes stuff down there. I think Thomas took stuff down there, and they camp George as well, Christina.
Crystal.
They'll take stuff in there and they'll stay overnight or whatever. But 2 weeks, that's something else.
And also that kind of puts into perspective the distance of penetration into a cave is just incredible. And the natural world, what's under the surface of our earth, under the ground that we walk on.
Yeah. And I like how communication, if they're under there for 2 weeks, they obviously thought about communication. So running a phone line. I've not heard that before.
No.
And I thought, wow, that's something else actually. But it's all important stuff, because you're basically clambering into the center of the world, and something goes wrong. They are the cavalry, aren't they?
They are. Like you said, it's the diving community. They're the ones that are equipped and specialists in rescuing. Yeah, they know that environment, and it is a totally environment that's alien to you and I, isn't it?
I don't think I could I don't think. I'm pretty sure I could do 2 weeks underground.
Well,
No
we did the Wookiee hole experience. Imagine being stuck in there 2 weeks. No.
Nothing against Wookiee hole. Wookiee hole experience was a great experience.
It was fun, yeah.
But it was nice having a cup of tea after I'd done a couple of hours in it afterwards.
Yes. And it was also very good. He's just do it, but then he added the bit about love and compassion within that diving community as well, which I think is very important.
I think it is I think you've got the community with the diving world, but I think when it comes to cave diving, I think it's particularly on its own in that respect there. Yeah, because they know, when you look back at George, what happened to George, there were so many people come forward. Yeah, the Thai cave rescue, and the amount of people involved in that. But if you look at what happened in this country with George, and we spoke to George, when did we speak to George?
A couple of years ago, I would have thought.
For people who don't know who we're talking about, George, Leanne. Yes. He'll probably if he's listened to this, we'll go, that's not how you pronounce my name. But anyway, George, when George had his accident, and there was hundreds of people that come forward within, as soon as they heard there was a problem
from all over the country as well.
Forward. In fact, they were sending people away because they've just got so many people, and they are the emergency. They are their own emergency services.
Yeah, and the BBC in the UK made a documentary about George, and even watching it, you really get the feel for that community and the pulling together.
And he was in this country where we've got main roads, reasonable access that you can get to within, I don't know, let's face it, in this country, if you're in Birmingham, which is the centre of the country virtually,
you get there in a couple of hours, won't you?
You can get anywhere within a few hours. But 7 days. 7 days.
You probably could travel around the world in 7 days.
This is what I'm saying. If I got on a plane tomorrow, you think where I could get to in 7 days.
Yeah.
And he made a good point. You could get to the base camp of Everest within that time.
Yeah.
And that's easier to get to.
Yeah. The extremes of the world.
It does take a certain character, I think, definitely.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed that. It was good.
Yeah. And there's no ego, nothing.
No, but he also did indicate that there is egos. And,
of course there is.
Which there is in whatever discipline of diving you operate in, whether it is caving, recreational.
but you will always get that, you know, to a certain extent with, and I think it's a lot of it is a male thing. We're like it in the gym. You know, most people are like, you know, when they go, I think when they start getting into something, there's a certain element of ego and competitiveness.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some people need that. I don't know, maybe.
But yeah, it's how it's dealt with. And as long as it's not, you know, with aggression and.
It can be a negative thing, definitely. Yeah, and that
Exactly.
can be self crucifying as well, because if, you know, rather than, and it's like being in the gym, and you know, the ego can push you on to do heavier weights, but if the technique's not right, that's when you could come a cropper.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it goes across all aspects of life, really, doesn't it? So
But interesting hearing, you know, what he had to say, and you know, another aspect to cave diving that actually we've not had before.
no, and I did mention fitness because physically he must be incredibly fit.
Yeah, definitely got
Yeah.
to
So it just
listen to.
shows.
When we've had Christina on, Christina's
Mm.
talked about, you know, carrying all the gear because
Yes.
the trucks only go so far. The rest of it, you've got to lumber all this weight, you know, and there's no, well, I'll carry it for you, dear. It's, you
Yeah.
know, it's all hands to the pumps.
And you're carrying like 2 weeks worth of gear. You've got your food, your bedding, your cooking, everything, haven't you? Lighting, batteries.
Yeah. Just think, you've even got to take your toothbrush.
Mm.
What if you know, because you don't not clean your teeth for 2 weeks. Imagine that.
No, no. And hopefully, like we've seen in the past, they bring out all their waste and litter, literally everything out of the cave.
We didn't ask that.
No,
Good point.
I did think it, but yeah, but we have had that from other guests where they do literally don't leave any trace in the cave because it is
Well,
pollution.
yeah, and we don't know that because we didn't ask the question. But as a comparison, when you see these photos of people up in Everest, where you know, there's bodies, there's
Tents.
walls, tents, mad. My belief is that if you can get the stuff there,
You can get it back.
you can get it back.
Yeah.
If you can get it there, you can get it back. There's no reason why you can't.
No. No.
You know, I challenge anyone to come up with a good reason why. If you can climb Everest and you can take all them tanks, all that gear, and you go there for a specific reason, because of it's the challenge and, you know, the splendor of it all. Why would you then leave all your rubbish up there?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
No, it's just a mentality, isn't it? But yeah, out extreme part of the world, but it's somewhere that is particularly busy now, isn't it? Somewhere like Everest. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you think about like what Richard Garrett said about the deepest part of the world.
The ROV cables, yeah.
That must go on. But there we go. So we want to say thank you very much for Osmo to come on and share his, you know, his story, his journey, and his CV. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, follow him on Facebook, and if you've got any questions, drop them our way or contact him directly. And just let us know your thoughts on the podcast.
Absolutely. And he has made some entries to some magazines as publications as well. I was having a quick flick through. So Quest magazine for GUE, Association for Mexican Cave Studies, and Death Coral Caver as well. He's made some inserts to that as well. And also awards for 2024 as a Fathom Explorer. So you know, there's quite a lot which we didn't really cover, really, that he's done. So.
Yeah, but no, it was good, and that was a good way to cover lots of things, and including his career as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we better say we've already said that already in this episode. You would have heard the adverts, but we want to say thank you because these episodes are sponsored by the lovely people at
Knocked at 90, and they are beyond technical.
They certainly are. And also, these episodes for this one is also sponsored by
Sports Financial Services, who specialise in life insurance, and particularly for people that do dangerous or active sports. So you need to make sure you're covered for your life insurance and make sure all the boxes are ticked if something should happen.
Yeah, so make sure we should have asked him as well about life insurance, but I'm sure he's probably got all that covered.
He'll go, what?
Yeah. Life insurance, what's all that? So there we are. If you're diving, and today's Valentine's Day as well, so if you got a romantic dive coming up this weekend, let us know where you and your dive buddy are going to be diving.
Exactly. Yeah. Right then. That was
the BiG Scuba
podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, and see you on the next one.
See you next time.